details of the book. The reaction to Babangida's statements. A professor of development studies, Ki Boye Aaron, says the country's democracy is in shambles because of the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election by former military head of state Ibrahim Babangida. His comment comes as Babangida, during his book launch, admitted that MKO won the election.
In the first place, we didn't even need this admission to know that Abiola actually won that election. Point here is this. We have a society that has no accountability mechanism in place. People who should be in jail, people who have done some real damage to the society are today celebrated. The quality of the lives of Nigerians today, the quality of our democracy, the quality of our governance are linked to that singular act of annulment of June 12. I believe that if that 1992 election had come to stay, which was the popular will of the people, Abiola would have been mindful of his connection with the people that he was governing.
Professor Aaron said the annulment set a precedent leading to a system where votes no longer count.
What that meant was that because the people who later emerged as our leaders, or to borrow Farotimi's expression, winners, they got to learn that they didn't need our support for them to win election. And so from that point on, there is a strong disconnect between the governed and those who govern us. That's the reason why today we have our democracy is in shambles. You really don't need the people to win election. And I trace all of this to the singular act of annulment of June 12. That was the moment that Nigerians' vote would have counted.
On his part, the chairman of the South-South Zone of Civil Liberty Organizations, Carl Chinedu, criticized Babangida for failing to disclose the actual reason behind the annulment in his book.
There's a near total rejection of IBB's narrative because everybody believes that he was very, very conservative with the truth on what happened. His refusal to take responsibility for what happened at that period. Instead, he was shifting blames to Abacha and the rest of them who are all dead, Dogonya and the rest of them. He did not come forward as a general who had the kind of command Nigerians believe he had. From us too, it's also a very, very big distraction from the democratic process because it simply shows that people can commit all manner of treasonable matters and get away with it. Impunity does not augur well for democracy.
All right, my guest is Mr. Olalekan Ige. He's a journalist and public affairs analyst, and he joins me live in the studio. Hello, Mr. Ige.
Yeah, is it good evening now?
It's past 4. It is evening.
Chinedu, how are you today?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine.
As always, looking good.
Thank you so much. As my boss and leader, I'm always following you.
You see, the problem with what you're doing is you're being defensive. It's like when you know somebody wants to ask you for money, and then before they do, you say...
I can only implore you that you carry me along, please. Carry me along. Carry me along.
Well, let's settle Babangida's issue first. And hopefully we'll carry each other along.
Yes.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, you have read the book,
yeah,
right? And I'm sure you've seen some chapters, some parts of the book that, may have stirred a reaction. What new information has this book given? We knew before Babangida's statements that the election was annulled. We knew that Abiola won the election. We knew as much as we did, even if he did not say anything. What did Babangida say that is new information that Nigerians did not previously know?
Well, for much of what I've read, you understand, the memoir, by Babangida, the highlight, of his military junta was transition to civil rule. That occupies the entire chapter 12, of that book. There is almost nothing new that he said in that book. The only new thing, as far as I'm concerned, is that Babangida is now confessing that he was actually afraid of a man, in his military junta. And that, other than that, the first part of the book had to do with his early years, military, and all of that. There is absolutely nothing new in what he has told us. The only thing new is that he was afraid of one man, in his junta, and that man was Sani Abacha. Nothing else.
Now, do you agree that the June 12 election led to a system where votes don't count? One of the people interviewed talked about, that being a precedent, and now Nigerians will not trust the process.
It's possible, really. I don't know whether I should use this word now for younger generation or those that were not voting age or for those who didn't know much, about June 12. June 12 represented a brand new chapter in our checkered history, especially as regards voting, democracy, governance, and all of that. June 12, 1993 represented a new direction, in Nigeria's political history. It represented a complete shift as to what we were known for, prior to 1993. It was the first time in Nigeria's political history that Nigeria threw away everything concerning religion, ethnicity, background. Nigerians threw everything away.
There were no dividing lines.
There were no dividing lines. And more so is that the SDP presidential candidate, that's the Social Democratic presidential candidate, Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, and Baba Gana Kingibe were Muslims. Nigerians didn't care. Nigerians didn't even look at religion. You understand? We all trooped out that day. And maybe for those who do not know, as of 1993, we had 30 states in Nigeria. When we went to poll, on June 12, 1993, there were 30 states. And out of that 30, Abiola won 19 out of those 30 states. What it meant is that Abiola won an election in at least 3 states in each of the 6 geopolitical zones. Abiola won election in all of the 5 states in the southwest as at then. Out of the 5 states south, Abiola won the only state in south, the River State, and the River State Abiola won in Benue, he won in Plateau. The 5 states in the northeast as at then, Abiola won in Yobe, he won in Borno, and I think he won in Taraba. Of this, then Abiola won Kano, won. Yeah. Am I giving this back to one of Nigerians as at then? We say, look, we were tired of the military rule. We were tired of without compensation in 1990. That was Babangida's initial transition program, and it was on the basis of that he established a political bureau. What was the responsibility of political bureau? To advise him on how Nigeria was going to return to democratic governance in 1990. That was the initial plan of Babangida. It was Babangida himself who now began to change the goalposts from 1990. That was what earned him that nickname Maradona, that was dribbling Nigerians. Between 1990 and 1993, we had shifted transition rule about 3 or 4 times, so that people can now begin to understand why we say June 12. If you recall, in 1992, both SDP and NRC had conducted their presidential primaries. That of SDP was won by the late Shehu Yaradua, while that of NRC was won by Adamu Shiroma. It was the same Babangida who annulled the primaries of these 2 political parties, that they wanted to do away with the old order. That they wanted to do away with the old order. Nigerians didn't care. I think that sometime in either August or September of 1992, both National Electoral Commission and the Armed Forces Ruling Council annulled the presidential primaries of both SDP and NRC. And recall too that as of 1991, we had already had elected governors. In all the 30 states, there were elected governors already. We had members of House of Assembly. We had members of the National Assembly. What was just remaining was just to conduct the presidential, election.
Well, it's at this point that we desperately seek balance, and I'm looking for a good reason why Babangida will be in the headlines. The freest and fairest election Nigerian has seen, as confirmed by many of our leaders, was June 12, 1993. Was that election organized by a military government? There was NEC.
National Electoral Commission of Nigeria.
Yes. And of course, NEC is what INEC is now.
Yes. So headed by late Professor Humphrey Nwosu.
Would we give Babangida's government, which was a military government, the credit for organizing that election, or is NEC taking the entire glory?
The other way to answer that question is that, was Babangida ready to leave government? All these were smoke screen.
Yes, of course.
Remember that even before 1993 presidential election, the rumor out there was that Babangida wanted to transmit from a military head of state to a civilian president.
Yes, that he wanted to be the one who would.
So if you're asking me, should we give him credit? The question is, was the man ready to go? That's the best way to answer your question. Credit now, because it means that he did. Remember that dovetailing into that presidential election. You understand? We're already hearing rumors. Is it going to take place? Is it not going to take place? Remember that even Babangida didn't know that Abiola will win the SDP primary. He was a late entrant into that SDP primary. If you recall very well, the candidate
we have to take a break. Sorry for cutting you.
Okay.
After the break, we talk some more. Please stay with us. It's still Hard Facts 92.3 Nigeria Info. Sam Oracle Chinedu here, and I have my guest still right here with me, Mr. Olalekan. Hello, Mr. Ige.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, before the break, he was giving us a historical background into the June 12th issue, and the question I asked was about whether Babangida and his government would get credit for having the most credible election happen in their administration. Now, when there is a milestone achievement, right, after giving credit to the project, people also look to the government in power.
True.
Which one can I think of? Okay, let me look for, this is not really big, but the second Niger Bridge, which has been a topic of The government that is getting the credit is the Buhari administration because he was the one who, even though it was initiated before his.
True.
Does the Babangida government get any form of credit whatsoever that the June 12 election, even though it was aborted, happened in his government?
There's no credit. Why you give credit to something that was not brought into fruition?
But it's a reference point to our democracy now, that our democracy day to day.
No, why we are making reference to it, it's because of the significance of that period. You can't give credit to somebody who woke up and annulled an election. From the revelation of what he's saying in his book now, the credit will even be completely be misplaced. But now he's telling us that he didn't annul the election. He's telling us that he was not even aware that the election was annulled. He's telling us that he was not even in Abuja when the election was annulled. That was he's telling us. He said that look, the annulment was written on a piece of paper through the press secretary of the list, Augustus Saikomu. You know, Chinedu, no. Let's look at it very well. Remember, the first chief of general staff we had, which was like the vice president under Babangida, was Ebitu Ukiwe, who was changed. I think it was changed in 1986 to thereabout. That brought in Augustus Saikomu. No, we are looking at the Babangida's administration that killed his best friend, Mamam Vasta, simply because there were rumors that he had the intention of planning a coup. Mamam Vasta was his best friend. He killed him. Gideon Oka plotted a coup. He killed him. And others that were accused of trying to plot a coup in both Mamam Vasta and Gideon Oka's case. There were allegations that his administration was responsible for the killing of Dele Giwa. He has denied it severally. Right? So why am I giving this background? Babangida didn't give us a picture of somebody that was afraid of anybody. Babangida didn't give us a picture of somebody who couldn't take his decision immediately. So if you have this background, are you saying that the late Augustus Saikomu will have the temerity? I'm wondering, will have the temerity to annul an election, and Babangida didn't arrest him for treason? In
other words, you don't believe.
No, and Babangida didn't arrest Augustus Saikomu for trying to blow up the highlight of his administration. No. Let's not go there. That's what I'm saying. So Babangida is not telling us that he was afraid of Abacha. Remember that in 1990, after Babangida survived the Gideon Oka coup, after Babangida survived it, there were issues around then, when people said, look, it was Abacha that was able to take over the reins of government, and decided to say, look, my friend Babangida, I'm very loyal to you. I'm not interested in taking over this government from you and all of that. So a lot of people felt that from that point on, Babangida owed Abacha, won, how he owed Abacha, how he was going to repay Abacha, nobody knew, as at then. So was it at that point that he became afraid of Abacha? At what point? These things are not adding up. And unfortunately, let me say unfortunately for the third time, one other person who may have been able to challenge the facts as stated in Babangida's book is Professor Humphrey Nwosu, who was the chairman of NEC then. Unfortunately, Humphrey Nwosu died last year.
Yeah.
So is there a coincidence?
So that's all.
No, I may be wrong, please.
All those who have.
No. Why am I saying this is particularly significant?
Yeah.
Is that Humphrey Nwosu died last year? That is probably the only man who probably will have been able to give us an inside knowledge. So 3 people were crucial to June 12, 1993 election. At least during, I'm not talking of after now.
Yeah.
During this annulment, 3 people were very crucial. Professor Humphrey Nwosu,
the NEC chairman.
Sani Abacha, Minister for Defense. Augustus Saikomu, who was the vice president, chief of general staff, who was the vice president under Babangida. Incidentally, all 3 men are no longer alive.
Who could
incidentally
be in position to refute?
Of course. I think I've been trying to look for something relating to the press secretary of Augustus Saikomu. Then I've been trying to get his name and see whether he's still alive and if he can give us the truth or something that looks like the truth as to, is it really true that it was Augustus Saikomu that told him to write a press release on a piece of paper and annul that election?
It's hard to imagine because that was a military government, a government that operates by decree. So Talking about that level of influence that even civilian presidents will not even admit to is difficult to swallow.
That he was not aware. That is what is shocking, to Nigerians. Babangida himself, if you recall the speech he made, following that annulment, that they had received reports about, electoral irregularities, money at the exchange hands, and all of that. Nobody bought that thing. This was an afterthought. If all of this were before the Security Council or the highest ruling council in Nigeria, as at that point in time, if all of these were before you, so why did you allow them to even contest the election?